Joanna, my fiancée of many years, left me in the country to take care of myself for the sake of her dream guy. 3 years later, she came back with that dream guy to get me. She said, "It's been 3 years. Even a dog should have learned its lesson by now. I'm doing this for your own good. If you don't modify how you feel, you shouldn't even think about being my husband." Everyone assumed I would cry about how much I missed the last 3 years, holding on to her tightly. But I just smiled pleasantly. "Sorry, miss," I said. "I'm already married." Chapter 1. I had just completed shooting some footage and was on my way back when I saw a dozen luxury automobiles parked outside the old Moo family estate, cars I hadn't seen in years. As I approached the house, I could hear the raucous discussion inside. "It's been 3 years. I wonder what that young Master Joel has evolved into. Probably just some backwater bumpkin by now, right? Yeah, young master my ass. He was only an orphan crashing at the Moo family's residence, acting like he's some kind of heir." Exactly. He doesn't share a drop of blood with the Moo family. If it weren't for their kindness, he'd be worse off than a beggar. Joel always had a nasty temper. I believe after these 3 years, he's finally realized he was wrong. A strong male voice abruptly stopped all the mockery, bringing a momentary stillness to the yard. That voice, it seemed familiar. It was Anthony, her darling golden boy. 3 years ago, after his father died in a car accident, Joanna Moo brought him into the Moo household, and I was taken away to the countryside. When she sent me off, she responded, "Anthony just lost his family, and you're still speaking so cruelly. He's always been kind to you. Don't you have a heart after you learn to behave, after you grow up a bit? Then I'll let you come back. Otherwise, stay there forever. I'm doing this for your own good. If you don't change that mindset, don't ever hope to become my husband. For my own good." What a beautiful excuse. Doing it for my own benefit means siding with Anthony no matter what. Doing it for my own benefit means dumping me in the middle of nowhere and forgetting I even existed. She knew quite well I was on the edge, barely holding on at the time. Now hearing her say that again, I can't help but think it hilarious. Good thing Anthony was gracious enough not to press charges. If it were me, I would have locked him away for a few years at least. Anthony said quietly, "Joel is still technically part of the Moo family." As he spoke, his voice grew even quieter. "Anthony, don't be sad. That idiot's already been punished. What do you guys think he'll do when he sees us? That's obvious. He'll break down crying, beg to go back with Joanna groveling on his knees." Joanna snorted coldly. "It's been 3 years. Even a dog should have learned its place by now. If not, he can keep decaying out here." The group chuckled and stated their agreement. "In that scenario, I kinda hope he hasn't learned. That way, I never have to see him again. Yeah, just looking at his sad, boot-licking face disgusts me. But I remember you two still have an engagement, right?" A voice boomed out, tempered with a trace of skepticism. Anthony moved his head toward Joanna at hearing that, his eyes full of hope. "Engagement depends on how he performs." Hearing Joanna's remarks, Anthony looked aside, slightly disheartened. At that time, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Chapter 2. I didn't try to disguise my laughter. The sound conveyed by the mild wind drifted into the courtyard and frightened a group of small turtles sunning there. The person nearest to the door turned and glanced at me, screaming out in astonishment and confusion, "Joel!" Her shout attracted everyone's attention toward me. "That's really Joel." No way! Wasn't he supposed to be some hillbilly by now? I heard all their comments plainly and understood their amazement. In their thinking, 3 years banished to the countryside should have converted me into a dust-covered, weary-faced farmer. But I wasn't that. I wore a dark-colored tech jacket, matching sneakers, fresh off the season's trend list, and a pair of brand-new casual shoes. Around my neck hung a high-end camera that plainly wasn't cheap. In one hand, I carried a coffee cup. There wasn't a shred of a bumpkin about me. Joanna's attention steadily rested on me, a glimmer of surprise in her eyes as well. "Joel." She called my name, her tone remote, nothing like the kind way she spoke to Anthony. I remembered. I used to feel upset by that. I even argued with her about it, but not anymore. "Miss Moo," I welcomed cordially, taking a drink of my coffee. Joanna scowled slightly at way I greeted her. "Only 3 years, and you're acting like a stranger. I'm your fiancé. That's how you talk to me. Looks like 3 years wasn't long enough. You still haven't learned your lesson. If you keep this up, I'll really call off the engagement." I glanced at her indifferently. What made her believe I'd still have feelings for her? After 3 years, I became an orphan at the age of 10. It was Grandpa Moo who took me into the Moo home, and right then and there proclaimed my engagement to Joanna. From that moment on, I knew Joanna would be my future wife, so I let myself to fall for her little by little under the warmth of her kindness. And when love was at its deepest, she replied she loved me too. She stated she wanted to be my wife until Anthony arrived at the Moo residence. Everything changed. I watched as the caring that once belonged to me was snatched away piece by piece. I saw how totally she favored him. I argued, gave her the cold shoulder, even picked conflicts with Anthony on purpose. Every time, without exception, it ended in scolding and rage, directed at me. Then, one day, Anthony's watch went gone. Joanna came straight to me, demanding an explanation. Sure, I didn't like Anthony, but I wasn't shameless enough to steal. Especially not then. My cat, whom I had raised for 8 years, was hospitalized and dying. That cat was Joanna's birthday gift to me. She stated it was a symbol of our love. To care for it, I had hired an apartment near the pet hospital and hadn't been back to the Moo house in a while. I stood tall and challenged her. But strangely, the missing watch popped up in an old jacket of mine I hadn't worn in ages. Joanna slapped me across the face. Then she smashed a bracelet, one my parents had picked out long ago as a future wedding gift for their daughter-in-law. I glanced at the bracelet smashed into fragments on the floor, and something inside me cracked. I charged toward Anthony like a lunatic. In the pandemonium, he fell down the steps. After that, Joanna sent me away to the countryside, and my cat didn't survive that summer. I stayed mute as Joanna's face got increasingly impatient. Just as she was about to lash out, I raised my left hand slightly and showed her the ring on my finger. "Sorry, Miss Moo," I said. "I'm already married." Chapter 3. Joanna's frown grew the instant she heard my comments. Anthony stepped forward, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, staring at me like I was some wicked little brother. "Joel, you shouldn't lie," he said, chuckling. "I heard from Joanna that she cut off your credit cards. So how have you been living all these years? You're still young. Don't allow some nasty woman take advantage of you." As he stated that, Joanna's attention eventually went to my clothes as her expression gradually grew frigid. She was obviously reminded that she had fully cut off all my financial support. To them, someone without Moo family money had no right to be dressed this elegantly. Their little entourage all gazed at me with scornful eyes. One of them piped out, "Joel, don't tell me you've got yourself a sugar mommy. Out here in the sticks, what did some lonely old widow from the hamlet take you?" In Joanna's face darkened instantly, her eyes full of wrath as she gazed at me. "Joel, are you even a man? You want to take aside your dignity, fine. But don't bring the Moo family name down with you." Judging by her tone, she clearly assumed I had become some affluent woman's side piece. But Joanna, after all the years we've known one another, even if you don't like me anymore, don't you at least know what kind of person I am? In your eyes, do I truly look like someone who'd sell myself for money? I swept my look around the gathering, my voice icy and piercing. I should be the one asking if any of you have any dignity left. You came all this way just to be crazy in my front yard. I'm not like you losers. Even without anyone's help, even without the Moo family, I, Joel, can still live absolutely fine. Joanna plainly hadn't expected me to talk back. She was briefly astonished. Then she delivered a sarcastic laugh. "Oh, truly, you without the Moo family, Joel, don't be silly. I know precisely what you're trying to do. This is all intended to attract my attention." I couldn't help but laugh, out of disbelief. Does this woman even grasp human language? Trying to attract your attention. You believe you're worth it. I hurled the coffee in my palm at her. Joanna wasn't expecting it and ended up getting a big splash right in her gorgeous face. "Ah, Joanna." Anthony moved forward and drew her into his arms, but Joanna shoved him away, hard, wiped the coffee from her face, and lifted her hand to slap me. I took a hasty step back and growled, "What the Moo princess wants to start hitting people again." Joanna's hand froze midair. She took a deep breath. "Joel, you're doing fantastic, aren't you? Fine then. Stay out here for the rest of your life." With that, she stormed off. And exactly like that, the major character departed the stage, and all the smaller side characters who had come for the drama filed out right behind her. Anthony was the last to go. As he walked past me, he muttered, "Joel, thank you. If it weren't for you, Joanna would never have known how good I am." I didn't reply. The things you're so proud of are just the rubbish I threw away. You like picking up rubbish. Be my guest. After they left, I got the items and headed to the house opposite from the Moo estate. Inside, a woman was on a video call. When she saw me coming in, she hit silent, then raced into my arms with a big smile. "Took you long enough. I'm starving." Chapter 4. I grinned and brought her into my arms. "I've been out working all day, and you didn't even thought to cook me a beautiful lunch to repay me." The woman pinched her small nose and answered naively, "But I don't know how to cook. How about some instant noodles instead?" I turned around, bent down, and pinched her nose. "You little rascal. When have you ever cooked in this house? I heard some commotion outside just now." What happened? Thinking of what had just transpired, my eyes darkened slightly. Joanna showed up, said she came to take me back. I gave her a lesson instead, hearing that her brows wrinkled. "That girl Joanna, good that you gave her a piece of your mind. Someone needs to teach her etiquette." I raised an eyebrow, studying her. "That's it." She just grinned. Her fingers started to trace slow circles on my chest. "I know all about your past with her. Sure, I get a little jealous occasionally, but you're here with me now, and that's all that matters." As she spoke, her lips were already brushing against mine. Her kiss was delicate like water, slowly melting me, pulling me deeper into her warmth. The next time I saw Joanna was a month later, at Gabriel's engagement celebration. He's my best friend, and he made a special trip to the countryside specifically to invite me. I couldn't say no, so I finally agreed. Seeing Joanna and Anthony again didn't surprise me. The moment Gabriel saw them, he grabbed me behind him like a mother hen, safeguarding its brood, and had Angelica go deal with them. Angelica, his fiancée, was also one of Joanna's friends. As for Gabriel, he hauled me off to a corner. "Joel, I'm very sorry. I forgot they'd be here too." I grinned and shook my head. After all those years at the Moo House, our social groups overlapped a lot. It was normal they'd show up. "It's fine. I stopped caring a long time ago," I comforted him. "Besides, I'm married now." Gabriel halted, his eyes becoming wide in amazement. "You're married since when? And how come I didn't know 6 months ago?" He stared at me for a while and abruptly broke into a grin. "That's my guy. I knew it. Someone like you. No way you'd give up an entire forest just for one rotten tree like Joanna. That's how it should be. Women like her not worth it." He playfully punched me in the chest. I knew he was truly thrilled for me. Back when Anthony had initially appeared, Gabriel had continually warning me, but I couldn't let go. I was dead set on pounding my skull against the wall. Now I had finally let go. After our brief giggle, he gave me a faux look. "Then why didn't you bring your wife here for me to meet? Don't tell me you don't think of me as a real brother." "She's on a business trip," I said with an apologetic smile. "She won't be back till tonight. I'll bring her next time. We'll treat you to dinner." Gabriel nodded, satisfied. Suddenly, he grabbed my arm, drove me to the center of the crowd, and picked up the microphone, drawing everyone's attention. With a wide, beaming smile, he said, "Everyone, I have another amazing announcement to make today." He pulled me up to him and introduced me professionally. "This is my good friend, Joel. And guess what? He's married. Let's all give him a loud round of applause." As his words dropped, the room grew silent. Most of the guests here were from our common social circle, and many of them knew Joanna Moo's fiancé was named Joel. But no one had ever heard that Joanna was married. Gabriel, ever the mischief maker, glanced around and said, "What, my brother gets married, and you're not even thrilled for him?" People shook out of their daze and swiftly chimed in with laughter and cheers. "Of course, we're happy, overjoyed. Congratulations, wishing you 100 years of happiness and a baby soon." Chapter 5. Amid the crowd's blessings, I only nodded with a feeble smile. That was when Anthony stepped up to me. He clutched a glass of wine, looking at me with anxiety written all over his face. "Joel, you've been living out in the countryside for the past 2 years. Now you're suddenly getting married. Are you sure you're not being conned by some unscrupulous folks out there? I know you're still furious that Joanna sent you away, but she did it for your own benefit. You're still young. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Marriage is a big deal. You have to be cautious." "Anthony, don't you think you're meddling a bit too much? Even if I were marrying a pig, it's none of your damn business." I couldn't help but cut him off. I truly disliked him. He definitely didn't like me, yet constantly pretended like he cared. Back when we were living at the Moo household, he was the same. And over time, I progressively become the dark sheep of the family. No one liked me. Meanwhile, he became everyone's golden boy, the perfect gentleman, warm and considerate. I've seen through that act long ago. It's just boring now. Anthony didn't take being chopped off well. His face discolored. And precisely on cue, Joanna walked over. She stared at me for a long while before ultimately speaking. "Joel, that's enough." After the party, I was standing alone by the roadside waiting for a ride. Joanna's automobile drove up in front of me. Her expression was frigid. "Get in." I shook my head. "No need. My wife's coming to pick me up." She scoffed. "Joel, how long are you planning to keep this act up? Fooling others is one thing, but everyone in City A knows you've been desperately in love with me for years. You'd die for me. Someone like you. Who the heck would ever want to marry you? Get in the car, and I'll forget you snuck back into the city." Her tone was harsh, and when I still didn't move, a look of hatred crossed her face. "Don't tell me you actually became someone's side piece. Who would have such poor taste?" I grinned softly at that. "Miss Moo, have you ever been someone's side piece? Otherwise, what makes you so confident that's what this is? Only people with filthy thoughts assume everyone else is dirty too." Joanna looked like she'd just swallowed a fly. She scowled at me. "Joel, what the hell happened to you?" Looking at her so righteously outraged, someone might actually believe she was heartbroken. But the truth is, I haven't changed at all. I was a mischievous kid growing up. My parents reprimanded me for it often. Even when I moved into the Moo household, my personality stayed the same. I recall the first time I clapped back at someone in that house. Joanna was right there giggling. She said, "A real man should have backbone. That's what makes him beautiful." But then Anthony showed up, and suddenly, I was too immature. Not steady enough. So I started covering all my edges, toning myself down. But now, I don't want to change for her anymore. Anthony had been sitting calmly in the front passenger seat the entire while listening to our chat. When he saw Joanna's face, a tiny smile flickered in his eyes. Then he looked at me and softly stated, "Joel, how can you talk to Joanna like that? She's only thinking of you." "Shut up." I rolled my eyes and glanced at him in bewilderment. "Nobody said you had to talk. Just because you're silent doesn't mean you're mute. This is between me and Joanna. What's it got to do with you?" Anthony was at a loss for words, visibly ashamed. Chapter 6. Just then, a pink sports vehicle drove up behind us. Without even glancing at the two of them, I strolled over and got in. Over the boom of the engine, I could still hear Joanna shrieking insults behind me. That night, I received a call from an unexpected number. When I replied, I found out it was Selena, Joanna's bestie. "Joel, what are you up to?" I turned off the music. "Putting the kid to bed." There was a brief delay on the other end, followed by a bewildered query. "Putting a kid to bed, like an actual human child?" I nodded. "What else would it be?" "Selena, don't mess with me. Joanna was never pregnant. How could you possibly have a kid?" I said calmly. "It's not like Joanna's the only woman in the world who can have a child with me." Selena's voice jumped up a notch. "No way. So you really got married, and you have a kid?" I inquired in return why I'm not allowed to get married and have children. "It's just, I thought you were engaged to Joanna all this time, and you've always been into her. How could you suddenly be married? You're faking it right." I chuckled. Why did everyone assume I was lying? Marriage isn't some joke. I'd never use it to perform a trick. "It's real," I remarked after a short pause. "When the wedding happens, I'll make sure you get an invite." As soon as I stated that, a blast of background noise erupted from her end. Then the call dropped. I didn't give it much thought. Joanna's so-called girlfriends, 9 out of 10 of them, always thought I wasn't good enough for her, even when things were fantastic between us. Once Anthony came into the picture, their disdain just got stronger. I've overheard them bad-mouthing me more times than I can count. A moment later, another call came in. Joanna. One glance at the caller ID, and I already knew. The second I picked up, before I could even speak, she started ranting. "Joel, tell me that kid isn't yours." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Are you serious right now?" Joanna's voice got even louder. "Joel, I'm telling you, say that child isn't yours." She was virtually screaming. Even without speakerphone, I was sure half the room could hear her. I pushed the phone slightly away from my ear and stated coldly, If that's all you called for, I'm hanging up. Did you not fucking hear what I said? Where the hell are you right now? After knowing Joanna for so many years, I'd seen all her tantrums. Her ranting didn't faze me one bit. She kept going to the other end. Suddenly, someone grabbed the phone from my hand, from behind. Then I heard Amelia's sweet voice. Joel's going to sleep with me now. If you've got something to say, save it for another time. Without waiting for a response, she hung up. I turned my head and encountered a pair of dazzling eyes, lots of mischief. She leaped into my arms, rubbing her face tenderly against my neck. Her body still held the perfume of her shower gel, a bright, peachy fragrance. You better work harder, she muttered. Otherwise, you won't have any babies to tuck in next time. I stroked her little bottom and chuckled. I was just talking nonsense. Amelia kissed me lightly on the lips and muttered, "Not for long." Chapter 7. 3 days later, I returned to the Moo household. Amelia and I went together to visit Grandpa Moo. It was he who brought me into the Moo family all those years ago, and he had always treated me like his own grandchild. But his health had plummeted dramatically in recent years. Most of the time, he stayed abroad for treatment. This voyage back home was to commemorate his 80th birthday. I heard he'd be heading overseas again shortly after the celebration. After we saw Grandpa Moo, Amelia got a call and strolled out to the back garden. I waited for her silently in a corner. "I thought you'd never come back." I turned at the voice. Joanna had somehow walked up behind me. Her gorgeous face was chilly and frosty as she glanced at me. Ignoring her expression, I grinned. Of course I'd come back. It's Grandpa's birthday, and I brought my wife to meet him too. Joanna looked at me icily. "What now? Got some new tricks? Have you spent the past few years in the countryside thinking ways to piss me off? Let me make something clear. Stop fantasizing. I will never marry you. I'm going to tell Grandpa right now. We're canceling the engagement." She peered behind me and sneered. "What didn't bring the illegitimate child that old woman gave you? You honestly disgust me. Get out of the Moo house right now." Just as her words fell, a gentle, drowsy voice flowed over. "Oh, the Moo family's eldest daughter undoubtedly thinks highly of herself. I had no clue the entire Moo estate was under your power." Joanna's body froze. She turned stiffly toward the voice. "Aunt." Amelia stepped over to me, put my hand in hers. She gazed straight at her niece. "I wouldn't dare call myself your aunt, especially since you just tried to toss your uncle out of the house." Joanna's face grew pale. Her gaze locked on our hands, and when she spoke again, her voice was practically stammering. You said he's my Uncle Joel, and you—" Amelia gave her a quick glance, her tone suddenly sharper and colder. "He's your uncle, and that's how you speak to him, calling him by name like that." Joanna's face went the color of ash, but she immediately recovered. In fact, for the rest of the family supper, her look was serene and composed, like nothing had happened earlier at all. The banquet concluded. Amelia went to get the car as I waited for her at the front gate. As I stood there, Joanna quickly emerged and dragged me into a secluded nook. Her look was frigid, her voice harsh with suppressed rage. "Joel, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You and my aunt. You're putting up a show simply to get at me, aren't you?" I stared at her. "You're overthinking it. If this were simply for show, I wouldn't have brought her here. After all, back then, when Joanna's parents separated, things between the two families were pretty heated. If it weren't for me, Amelia wouldn't have gladly came back here. Besides, Grandpa Moo actually cared for me. No matter what, I'd never lie to him." Joanna understood all this. She was just too enraged to think properly just now. She gave out a frigid laugh. "So this is payback, huh? You're getting back at me for selecting Anthony and dumping you in the countryside. Joel, I told you, if you behaved, you would have become my husband one day. What the hell are you doing now after 8? Looking at the redness in her eyes, I suddenly thought of the day Anthony first came at the Moo household. Joanna had made a vow to me. She declared that not even 10,000 Anthonys could compare to me. She claimed I would always be the one she loved the most. But then she started supporting Anthony and criticizing me over and over again. In the end, she even hit me. To this day, I vividly remember the crisp shatter of that jade bracelet hitting the floor, just like my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. I looked away, my gaze settling on the colorful flowers blooming not far distant. Joanna, the moment you stood in front of Anthony to shield him, that was when you should have realized there was no future for us. I'm not the kind of person who can just forgive and forget. We're like that fractured jade bracelet. Once broken, we can never go back. Now I'm married to Amelia. You have Anthony by your side. Let's each move on with our own life." A glimmer of emotion swept across Joanna's face. She fell silent for a time, then asked Joel, "Are you really this cruel? I do have feelings for you. Truly. I just felt sad for Anthony. He lost both his parents." Her voice trembled like she was barely holding back her feelings. At that, I let out a sour laugh. "So Anthony's an object of pity because he lost his parents. What about me? I lost both my parents at 5. And at 10, the grandfather who raised me passed away too. Wasn't I pitiful? How biased did she have to be to say anything like that? If she actually cared about me, how could she have abandoned me in the wilderness for 3 entire years? Never visiting, never phoning, I looked her in the eye and asked calmly, 'Joanna, do you remember why I came to the Moo family in the first place?' Her muscles stiffened and her face grew pale. She opened her mouth, wanting to utter something, but in the end, no words came out. I didn't glance at her expression. I just rolled up my sleeve and showed her the scar on my arm. You probably don't know this, but when you sent me away to the countryside, I fell into depression. I attempted suicide multiple times. There were so many occasions I feared I wouldn't survive, but happily, I made it through, and I met someone who actually loves me." Just then, the headlights of an automobile flashed close. It was Amelia. "She's here. I'll be going now." Joanna bowed her head, saying nothing. I yanked my arm free from her clutches and went away. It wasn't until the automobile had driven a considerable distance that I received a message from her. "Joel, you once stated you'd only ever marry me in this life." Yes, I did say that, back when I adored Joanna more than anything, back when I actually believed I'd marry her eventually, back when I believed she would only ever love me too, so I made that commitment with all my heart. But now, I've broken it because you turned away first, Joanna. Chapter 9. I didn't reply to the communication. I just dropped my phone carelessly into the back seat. Amelia peeked at me from the corner of her eye and asked, "Was that Joanna?" I nodded casually. "Yeah. She's been ridiculous these past few years, always acting like everything in the world belongs to her. She'll come to her senses eventually." I turned to her with a smile. "What, you're not even jealous? This woman was never renowned for being generous. She once compelled me to toss out every single thing I'd taken with me from the Moo house to the countryside. Amelia didn't say anything at first, but then she swiftly pulled over into a quiet, hidden place. She bit down on my lip and growled in that piercing, sultry voice of hers, "Who instructed me to fall in love with you. If I love you, I have to embrace all your baggage too. Besides, I'm your wife now. I'm not letting you go any place." I grinned and kissed her back. Not only would she never lose me, I'd never lose her either. After that day, I didn't see Joanna again. Gabriel invited me out to play basketball. While we were relaxing, he couldn't help but talk crap about Joanna. Joanna's nuts, man. Something's seriously off in her head. Angelica alleged that on the night of my engagement party, she went to some pub and ruined the whole place out of nowhere. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought she was secretly in love with me. He couldn't help chuckling at his own comments. Then, sobering slightly, he continued, "Haven't seen her in a while, though. A couple days ago, Anthony was even asking Angelica if she'd heard from Joanna. Where do you think she ran off to?" I lightly bounced the basketball. "Who knows? That night, I was ambushed in front of my residence. Joanna stood in my path, reeking of alcohol. Joel, I had a nightmare last night," she slurred. "I dreamt you got married. And you married my aunt. Tell me it's not true. Please. You said you'd marry me. You claimed you'd only ever love me. There's no way you'd marry someone else." I stared at her silently and took out my phone to call Amelia. Before the call even connected, she immediately took it from my fingers and slammed it to the ground. Her eyes were crimson. "Joel, say it. Say you only love me. Say you'll only ever marry me. Say it. Say you and Amelia are just lying to everyone. Say it's all phony, okay?" She slowly went to her knees in front of me, her voice shaking with desperation as if begging. This version of Joanna I had never seen before, like she genuinely loved me. If this were the past, I would have brought her into my arms, kissed her cheeks, and whispered quietly to calm her. But now, everything had changed. I glanced down at her from above, my voice indifferent. Joanna, if you want to portray the part of the devastated lover, go locate Anthony. I don't need it. Her head hung low. I couldn't see her face. It was a long while before she spoke again. Her voice hushed. Joel, I know I was wrong. I traveled to the countryside these previous couple days. I visited every place you resided in over those 3 years. I even met your old therapist. I know I harmed you, but if you can give me a chance, I want to make things right. I'll go any place with you, somewhere no one knows us, just the two of us. I'll be the woman who loves you more than anyone in the world. Please. Brother Joey. Hearing her call me Brother Joey made my heart leap for a second. Ever before Anthony came along, she'd stopped calling me that. From then on, it had always been just Joel, chilly and distant. Now she called me that again, but it didn't bring me any delight. Not even a little. Chapter 9. No. I said, what we had is over, just like that jade bracelet of mine. It shattered long ago. With that, I stepped past her and prepared to leave. She took my hand without saying a word. Although I could feel her hand quivering slightly, I ignored her. Instead, my gaze focused on the person approaching toward me as a gradual smile formed across my face. Amelia approached, expression cold. The first thing she did was remove Joanna's hand off my arm. Then she hauled her up from the ground and slapped her across the face. Joanna, I'm letting this slip for now since you're my niece, but don't let me see you again. And stop chasing after my hubby. Next time, I won't be so courteous. She washed her fingers clean, walked over, and took my hand, leading me home. Behind us, Joanna collapsed on the ground like a discarded rag, not moving 1 inch. After that, she never came looking for me again. The next time I saw her was at a conference. She appeared significantly thinner with Anthony by her side. I gave them a courteous nod and left to find my seat without more word. As I exited the event later, I could feel her eyes following me the whole time. During the intermission, Anthony came to find me. Joel, since you've already married Joanna's aunt, can you please keep away from her? Stop finding excuses to get close, all right? Do you even know what she's been through these past few days? She nearly lost her life because of you. I looked up and met his gaze. Still, that same self-righteous, arrogant attitude. I replied coldly, Anthony, what she decides to do has nothing to do with me. Besides, I was invited to this event by the organizers. I don't have the power to just show up uninvited. This seminar was held by a government department. Only people who had made real contributions in their fields were invited. Unless Anthony was an idiot, he should have known I wasn't here by coincidence. His expression froze, plainly connecting the dots. He hesitated, still wanting to say more. But I wasn't Joanna. I wouldn't humor him. I added abruptly, and by the way, I'm Joanna's uncle-in-law. Since you're her friend, that legally makes me your elder. Did no one ever educate you how to speak to your elders? His face grew stiff. He wasn't clueless, just used to looking down on me. So used to it that he spoke without constraint. He bit his lip and paused for a long time, but still couldn't bring himself to name me uncle-in-law. And when he spotted me smiling, his look turned nasty. Joel, what are you so pleased of? You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for Amelia. You think that gives you something special. You married her just because her family's rich. Don't think I don't know that. I didn't answer him. Instead, I peered past his shoulder. Joanna, amazing time. Come fetch your boy out of here. Anthony flinched and turned to find Joanna standing behind him, her face black with wrath. Flustered, he opened his mouth to explain. But before he could get a word out, Joanna grabbed him firmly and dragged him toward the exit of the arena. As I watched him leave, I felt a stab of regret. Regret that he wouldn't get to see me being invited on stage as a prestigious guest speaker, which means he still didn't comprehend one thing: I never needed somebody to prop me up. I was my own support. In the second half of the symposium, the organizers invited me to present a speech. The instant I stood up, I felt a pair of eyes following me closely. The stare kept riveted on me until I came up to the stage. I didn't hunt around to find it. I simply began. Hello, everyone. My name is Joel. As I finished the final line, the audience erupted into thunderous applause. I grinned gently, looking across the audience, then by accident encountered Joanna's gaze. There was something new about her eyes, something I'd never seen from her before. awe, and even admiration. I acted like I hadn't noticed it and turned my head aside. When the event ended, she made her way against the flow of individuals to stand in front of me. She looked at me for a long while before eventually speaking. "Joel, I didn't expect you to become someone like this." I stared back at her. "I owe it to you, actually. 3 years ago, I was transported to the countryside, completely alone. In the first year, I sank into depression. I even attempted suicide. The last time I was hospitalized, I shared a room with someone who loved documenting everything. She told me she wanted to document all the beauty in the world so that it wouldn't feel like her life had been squandered. In that moment, something in me moved. I started filming too, trying to capture everything wonderful around me. Through those movies, I began uncovering the richness of traditional culture and forgotten workmanship. They too were fighting to not be forgotten, to stay alive in a world moving too fast. Just like me, searching for a cause to keep moving forward. That's how I started incorporating intangible cultural legacy into my videos. At first, I merely wanted to preserve them, because once something is forgotten, it truly fades. But to my amazement, the videos started getting attention. I become a slightly successful content creator. A year later, I met Amelia. She had fallen unwell and returned to the countryside to heal. At the time, I was still living at the old Moo estate, capturing tiny vignettes of daily life. One day, during a heavy snowfall, she unexpectedly came in front of my lens. She saw the camera but didn't flinch. Instead, she grinned. She said, "You must be that video guy." "I'm Amelia. I've wanted to meet you for a long time." Later, she traversed the country with me, discovering traditional arts and history together. During an episode about handcrafted phoenix coronets, I proposed to her. Thinking back, I smiled faintly. Joanna observed my smile, and for a minute her expression softened, nostalgic, yet tinged with regret. I had no idea what she was thinking, because frankly, I didn't want to. I fixed the wind-blown hem of my coat and prepared to leave. As I stepped to the side to get past her, she suddenly stretched out her hand. Instinctively, I took a short step back. Then I realized what she was holding. It was a jade bracelet, one that looked virtually exactly like the one my parents had left me. She said, "I searched everywhere for this jade bracelet. Doesn't it look a lot like yours?" There was a glimmer of hope in her voice. But my attention wasn't on the bracelet. It was on the scar on her wrist, a scar that looked a lot like mine. She spotted where I was gazing and let out a sour smile. "I guess there's at least one thing we still have in common." I looked up at her, then sighed. "Joanna, you know the truth. What we had ended 3 years ago. Everything you're doing now, it only feels like a burden to me. So please, cease coming up in my life." With every word I spoke, the color faded farther from her face. When I finished, I didn't look at her again. I simply strolled by her without hesitation. Behind me came the sound of jade hitting the ground and the muffled sound of someone trying not to cry. From that day, I truly never saw Joanna again. Even when I returned to the Moo residence to visit Grandpa, I didn't run into her. Not even Anthony was around. Later, I heard out Anthony had moved out of the Moo house, Joanna's decision. She also cut off all touch with him. Anthony had been trying to find her ever since, seeking everywhere. He even came looking for me a couple times, but each time within minutes, someone would appear and forcibly take him away. I asked Amelia if it was her doing. She said no. I believed life would simply go on like this, but I didn't expect that one day I'd hear about Joanna in such a way. Her best buddy called me, her voice filled with fury. She claimed that for the past half year, Joanna had been drinking heavily. Rarely sober, but 2 nights ago, she woke up unexpectedly and started claiming she had to find me. That same night, she got into an automobile accident. She survived, but her leg was gravely wounded. The doctors told she might never walk again. We attempted to stop her, Selena said, her voice hoarse, but we couldn't. She was crying, stating tomorrow was your birthday, and that she'd already missed the last 3. She stated she couldn't miss this one too. She cried so hard. It hurt our hearts to see her like way. If we'd known, we never should have let her keep spiraling. She did all of this because of you. Amelia was wrapped up in my arms. When she heard the voice on the phone, she looked up at me. I softly pinched her cheek and without a word ended the call. She tilted her head and kissed my chin, speaking quietly. "This isn't your fault. I knew that. But still, it felt ludicrous. When she was by my side, she didn't know how to cherish me. Now that she was gone, what was the sense of pretending she ever did affection that arrives too late, is worth less than dirt? I'd always understood that, so I never went to see her. Half a month later, in the middle of the night, I received a text from Joanna. "Joel, I'm sorry." I didn't reply, because our story had already ended. From now on, I shall be undisturbed by spring and fall and removed from romance and earthly beauty.